of their practices, then they don't like it. But by and large, I think political society now has accepted the significance of civil society, that they are not supposed to come in power, but they are the people who continue hammering the minds of the society, and they profess upon the real pertinent issues that people face on ground. So I think instead of divergence, I see some convergence on many issues among political parties and civil society.
Before we close, I was negligent in making one announcement from the organizers that although we are very happy that you're using the intranet, please do not download too many photos because it is making the whole process very slow. So use the internet, but try not to download too much. Now, I'd like to thank Jame for being here and pitching in and answering questions that were actually fielded to Manish, who is Indian politician, and you're a civil society from Pakistan. So thank you all for your great questions. Thank you, Jame.
We will now break for tea, and I request all of you to come back at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Start with our final panel of the day. Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Garrett, and I'm with the International Republican Institute, and I'm going to bring to you the final panel of today, which is about youth approaches to building democratic processes. I don't have to tell you all, we've heard reference to it in our previous panel, but the world's becoming a younger place, at least in terms of its population. The World Bank says that youth comprise 44% of the world's 7.2 billion people. And in Asia, young people comprise even closer to half of the populations of the countries in this region. A young population can be a great opportunity for society as a source of economic growth, as a source of innovation. But in too many countries, we see, especially those where the numbers of people ages 15 to 29 years old is growing at the most rapid rate, the needs of young people are often unmet. There are several barriers to the full inclusion of youth to become full participants in the political process. And our panelists are going to speak to that. But more importantly, they're not just going to tell you the problems. They're going to try to outline to you how they have challenged and overcome these barriers through adaptation and innovation. For instance, by using technology to bypass outdated systems, and how young people can engage directly in their countries with the politics and civil society. So I don't want to spend much time. I'm not the youth speaker today, and I want to turn it over to them as quickly as I can. But let me introduce our panelists, and then you'll hear from them. At the end of the table, we have from Indonesia, Elina Ciptadi-Perkins. She's an awards-winning public relations consultant with more than 10 years' experience in the education sector. For our discussions today, I think you'll find of interest, she was also communications director of Kawal Pemilu, which was a website created to facilitate internet users to crowdsource voter tabulations during the 2014 Indonesian presidential election. She and others worked to get hundreds of volunteers in Indonesia and overseas that worked on this project, which produced very fast voting results that were only different by about 1% or so from the final election results that were announced. Next to her from Bangladesh is Shahed Kayes. He's a teacher, a poet, and a cultural rights activist. He initiated a movement in his country for the education of children of river gypsy, cobbler, fisher folk, Dalit, and indigenous communities. In addition, he has organized a Save Mayadip movement to aid 12,000 islanders fighting against illegal sand mining. As well, Shahed has published 3 books of poetry in the Bangla language, so perhaps he'll recite a poem for us at some point. Next to Shahed is Reena Khatoon from India. She is program manager at the YP Foundation. At the YP Foundation, she develops and implements governance programs to improve public services, such as health, education, and employment for children and young people. She also manages a voter mobilization campaign called What Does Your Vote Want? which supports young women's engagement with voting and governance. And last but not least, we have from Cambodia a blogger, Ritthy. Applause. He is the founder of something called Poltikoffee, and it's a forum for Cambodian youth to engage in political debates. Among many of the services they provide, they have 30 youth analysts who create political content in both English and Khmer, which they disseminate on various social media platforms. So they're all very wonderful speakers. I think you're going to have a good time hearing from them, and we're just going to get right to it with Elina Ciptadi-Perkins from Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, while the PowerPoint is being set up, I just want to say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I just want to express just how honored I am to be here with you. When I look at you and I look at the panelists today, I can say that you are the true democratic activists. Well, I am what I call an accidental activist. So I'm really honored to be in the same room with you because on day-to-day basis, I'm a mom, I'm a mother of two, I'm a wife. I bake very nice cookies. But, you know, but I am an accidental activist, and you'll see why. I'm here to represent 700 non-political, mostly young Indonesians who are totally disenfranchised with politics. But the year 2014 sees an unprecedented wave of political euphoria and volunteerism in Indonesia. And that also marked the year of breakthrough in open data initiative by the government in Indonesia. So I would like to share a little bit of that here, and with the hope that the same open data initiative, as well as the spirit of volunteerism, will catch waves in different parts of Asia. So I'm a member of a group. It's not even an NGO, it's not an organization. It's just a group of mostly young people with nothing better to do, and we name our group Kawal Pemilu. And okay, so Kawal Pemilu, there was no lengthy plan that goes into the creation of the project. At that time, this was last year, there was a very polarizing presidential election in Indonesia. There were only two candidates. They cannot be any more different. And their fans and their voters are also very, the campaigns were very divisive. And on the 9th of July, 2014, after most people cast their ballot, both parties claim that they have won. But none of them actually mentioned where they got the data from. So the sitting president at that time, President Yudhoyono, he called up the elections, the chairman of the elections agency, and he voiced concerns over election disputes. And he specifically mentioned to the chairman of the elections agency, please guard the election. And the name Kawal Pemilu was inspired by that, because Kawal is guard and Pemilu is election. So kawalpemilu.org essentially means to guard the election. It is an independent effort by non-partisan netizens to guard the election. And how do we do that? We did a parallel vote count to validate or to question the official vote count. Because at that time, what we found out was that the summary of the recapitulation notes from each voting booth was actually scanned and then made public. So if we could access that, we could do our own tabulation. And if our result is very much different from the official result, then we can question their result. or if it's pretty much the same, then we can validate the result. The movement was unstructured, sporadic, it's viral. These are the brains behind the project. As you can see, they're all young, they're all in their 20s. They have been friends since high school, and they were all math and computer geeks. So when they found out that they could access the scanned forms of the summary of the votes, they jumped at the chance to create their own tabulating system. And they all work in the virtual world. None of them actually live in the same country. So the guy that created the system lived in California. The guy that created the security system lived in the Netherlands and Germany. The guy that came up with the concept, Ainun, he lived in Singapore. So this is what we call the C1 form. This is the summary of the vote from each voting booth. It shows you how many people vote for each candidate. So basically what we did was basically showing a part of that form onto a computer screen so we can manually tabulate the result. There's almost 500,000 voting booths in the whole of Indonesia. And we managed to tabulate 70% of the data in just 3 days, 97% in just 6 days. While the official tabulation process actually took 2 weeks to complete, and it took us only 6 days. And why so fast? It's because of this. The official count system is a tiered count. So it goes from voting booth, and then they do their own tabulation at the sub-district level, district level, all the way to country level. So there's like six tabulating meetings. There's 6 recapitulation meetings that they have to go through. While we go from voting booth and we go straight to country level because it's all computerized, it's all digitized. So if we see any errors, we can pin it down to kind of like exactly which district, which voting booth it is, just by kind of like inputting the right information at voting booth level. So we finished 478,000 voting booths in 81,000 sub-districts, 7,000 districts, 500 towns, and in 33 provinces in just 6 days. Okay, and we were not the only group of people who were doing this. There was a wave of volunteerism among young people in Indonesia last year, and we were actually the last website to launch. But because we were the last to launch, we could learn from the mistake of our predecessors. Some of them were hacked, the data was tampered, the people got different kinds of threat, and then they got scared, and basically they bring the server down. So we were the last to launch, and we became the big name. And so the question was, what makes Kawal Pemilu different? The first thing that made us different is what we call gamification. Gamification is because if you look at data entry, it's a very tedious, boring process. But what we do is that we create a system of top scorers, and we give people a sense of closure, and then we publish the name of the top scorers. So it's like playing a game on a computer or on your phone. Another thing that made us different from other similar initiatives was our large base of volunteers. We have more than 700 volunteers, and they reside in 27 countries in more than 20 cities in Indonesia. So things happen really fast because there are 700 people ready to do the work. And if you see their professions, none of them come close to anything political. We have everything from kind of like dog trainer to fashion designer. Another thing that we did that many of other colleagues didn't do was intentional use of the media. We had a very, very good IT initiative, but at the end of the day, if nobody knew about it, nobody used it, the project is a waste. So we knew from the very beginning that we had to use the media intentionally. So we're not very picky about which media we want to be in. If they would have us, we would have them. We used a combination of social and conventional media. So we were all over social media, but also we were in magazines and TVs. We also created our own content. We created infographics to educate public on the counting process and why our counting process was a lot faster than the official one. And whenever possible, we do use kind of human interest. We use humor. We use endorsement campaign. It's because sometimes for something like this, you can't talk about you can't talk serious all the time. Politics is a serious matter, and sometimes you just have to lighten it up with humor. You have to lighten it up with graphics. You need to have other people saying good things about you and your initiative, and that's exactly what we did. We're also not very picky about speaking engagement. If a group of people want to hear about what we did and how we did it, we're happy to entertain that request. So feel free to ask me any more question about what the project was about and how we did it and the impact that it had on Indonesia. But I just want to go through this slide very quickly. The key takeout for creating a social movement, you need to take care of the technical and the communication side of it. Know your purpose, find its appeal, and then make it easy for people to do the job. Break the project into small chunks, especially if you want young people involved, and then recruit trustworthy people. And then ensure that you have a consistent message. You combine the use of social and conventional media. Be generous with speaking engagement like this one. And whenever appropriate, use endorsers, use infographics, humor, human interest angle. And that's it from me for now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, now it's time for Cambodia. So, Cambodia has undergone impressive change for last several years. The ruling party, the Cambodian People's Party, has been in power for around 36 years after the Pol Pot regime, the genocidal regime in Cambodia. Its popularity right now has been decreased because too long in power and many questions that this ruling party cannot answer to the new voter, to the new young people in Cambodia. Cambodia, we have 15 million population, and 70% of those 15 million population are under 30 years old. So those young people, they have new need, they have the new agenda, and those were not answered by the government, by the ruling party. So what they do, they travel to other country for those working population, young people. They travel as a laborer. They go to work in Thailand, Malaysia, and South Korea. The GDP per capita in Cambodia is very low if you compare to ASEAN country. It's just $1,000. It's even less than Laos, $1,600 GDP per capita. So when those Cambodians, they travel to other surrounding countries, including South Korea, they see something new that they never seen before. Because in Cambodia, mass media, I would say all mass media, like TV, radio, newspaper, were mainly controlled by government. So we don't see new things. So we don't know what we need. And people believe that we are poor because we something wrong in the past, something wrong in last lives. So they don't really know it's about politics, it's about policy. So when young people, they see something new, they see something better develop in other country, they send the message. They have information. So they not only remit the money home, but they send something new to their parent, to their family. So these young people, these migrant, has influence on the decision making of their relative, their parent in Cambodia. So these people change, vote to change the current government. So the current government still in power, but the popularity is almost like gone, almost like he lost 22 seats. So the politics in Cambodia right now is almost, I would say, zero-sum game politics between the opposition and the ruling. So the ruling is facing the threat of losing election in the next coming election in 2018. Young population plus social media, Facebook, for example, has created, I would say, a word called e-democratization in Cambodia. That people start talking a lot about politics through online media, through Facebook, through Twitter. In Cambodia, we have 1/3 of population. We have 15 million, so 1/3 of population access to internet. So 5 million people access to internet, and 1.7 million has Facebook account. So this is a very new mean of political or social participation that never before our country has this kind of medium of expression or comment to the society and the politics. So politics becomes a zero-sum game between the ruling and opposition is joined together. Before we had two strong opposition party, but now they join into one. So very strong. So it becomes zero-sum game. And the political party tried to bring youth to be under the umbrella, to speak their message, to advocate for support. That is why we create an informal group called Poltikoffee. I created it after I left India in 2011. So Poltikoffee is an informal and unregistered youth group that you mobilize young people who are interested in politics to drink coffee and talk politics. So it's Poltikoffee. 90% of Cambodian youngsters consume alcohol. So I'm thinking, they should not drink too much beer, alcoholic. They should drink coffee. And they should talk something about